Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to That 70s Rock Fan. I wanted today to do a little video review of the first two episodes of the new FX historical drama adaptation of one of my favorite, if not my favorite novels of all time. Possibly it is the favorite, despite my deep, abiding early love of science fiction. I also love historical dramas. And James Clavell's Shōgun is possibly my favorite novel of all time. These things change now and again, depending on the day you're asked, but I've always had a deep and abiding love of James Clavell's work and of this particular novel, released in 1975 and based upon real characters and real events in Japan, feudal Japan, in the year 1600 and the events leading up to and after that, with dynastic struggles, the opening up of Japan and Asia to Western traders and military forces and other struggles and schemes and individuals caught up in that world. Now, today I'm going to talk about episodes 1 and 2 briefly. I will do a full review of the entire season when it's finished. There will be some spoilers, but I'll try to keep them as mild as possible. But it's obviously difficult to talk about specific episodes without saying certain things, but I will try not to reveal too much. It's more a general discussion about how each episode felt to me. So going into this FX adaptation, which first two episodes have been released, and I think it's every Tuesday from now on. There will be a further episode, I think, leading up to 10 in full. First of all, I can say that I am thoroughly enjoying it. And in fact, eagerly anticipating the next episode. So my concerns, as we all have concerns now about adaptations of existing properties, and of course this was adapted as a mini-series back in 1980 with Richard Chamberlain, not necessarily my favourite choice for Blackthorn, but still a reasonable adaptation in many ways. The tendency for properties to be adapted now and have significant changes made to the story and characters, of course, is something we've grown used to in the last few years. So I did have my concerns. So far, from episodes 1 and 2, I am pretty satisfied that kind of significant change has not been made. Partly, I think, because of a number of reasons. One is the source material is based upon historical events. So it's very difficult to change that, although we've seen examples of that, of course. Secondly, the involvement of one of the members of the Clavell family as a producer to possibly keep that on track based upon James Clavell's original novel, and to make sure that that is honored. Also, of course, Hiroyuki Sanada, who stars as Toranaga, Lord Yoshii Toranaga, is also a producer. And I think that has helped to bring some involvement. His involvement has possibly kept a lot of the details and things like the casting and portrayals on board from the perspective of Japanese history. And it is a fascinating era in Japanese history. So, so far, very impressed. Visually, fantastic. Very, extremely well done in terms of sets, costumes, the overall look of everything. Even the CGI work for the more expansive views of, say, armies and the city of Osaka and other places looks very good to me and very well done. You can tell a lot of it has been filmed in British Columbia because it's raining a lot. So immediately, those of us who've been to some of the areas that it's been filmed with, we're going, oh yeah, I see that one. I recognize that place. But yeah, the attention to detail and costumes and of the dwellings, buildings is just phenomenal. It looks fantastic. So 100% satisfied in that respect. Is it faithful to the story? Episodes 1 and 2, and of course I can't predict where the others are going to changes may be made. In my opinion, others have disagreed. In my opinion, it is. What changes that I've seen have been, I think, the compression of certain events, perhaps the reduction of certain characters in the novel, and it's a very long and deep novel. So, in obviously translating that to the screen, even in a 10 episode series, isn't going to work. So certain things have been changed in that respect. I don't felt that they were egregiously changed. I don't think it made that much difference. And certainly if you were watching it as someone who'd never read the novel, wouldn't make any difference to you anyway. So far, I'm satisfied that, and it's going through it, watching it, well, that's in the book. That's in the book. That's in the book. That's in the book. So, so very satisfied so far with that they're sticking and honoring to the source material. So the casting. So first of all, going into it, looking at the trailers and not being familiar with much of his other work, which could be said to be quite art house. Cosmo Jarvis, I was somewhat skeptical of the casting. He knocked me out in this. He is excellent. In episode 1, Anjin, you see him long-haired, bearded, bedraggled looking, as he is the pilot, Anjin in Japanese, the navigator of a Dutch ship, the Erasmus, trying to penetrate Portuguese influenced areas of Asian Pacific in order to supplant them in trade, but also the ongoing war, holy war between Portuguese Catholics and Dutch and English Protestants, the struggle for control of the world between those two sects. So the navigator of a fleet of 5 ships, one is left, attrition through various means. They've crossed the Pacific looking for the Japans, this fabled land, and he is all beardy and bedraggled, but somewhat stronger than his 12 remaining or 11 remaining shipmates, who are even worse shape. So the ship, you don't see the storm, but in the novel there is a storm, and they basically drift into port in a small village in Japan, which happens to be in a fiefdom of Toranaga, controlled by Yoshii, one of his vassals. Cosmo was great. Cleaned them up later. Well, forcibly cleaned up by the Japanese. And he's a smart guy, tough guy, but also adaptable. And this is going to be important because episode 1 introduces immediately the culture clashes, the fact that the Japanese have extremely different ethos and way of life. They tolerate some of the Portuguese Jesuits and the trade that they bring. And indeed, some of the Japanese warlords, the daimyos, are Christian, converted by the Catholic priests. So there is an incursion, despite the efforts of some Japanese, of that Western presence. But these guys, the Protestant guys from these other countries, who are these guys? They don't know. They're used to the Jesuit Portuguese. Not even the Spanish Dominicans and Franciscans are welcomed. The Jesuits have a very, very big grip of the area, and that's part of the struggle here. Is not just between Japanese and Western but between sects internally in Japan because of warlords vying for power, but also struggles between the Westerners. English and Dutch against Japanese, Catholic against Protestant, Catholic denominations being suppressed by other Catholic denominations. So lots of vying for power, position, wealth, and so on. But Cosmo Jarvis, fantastic. Totally turned me around on that one. No longer skeptical. He's brilliant. Anna Sawai is the lady Toda Mariko, and I guess she's playing it extremely well, a little bit sharper than I had pictured Mariko being, and I mean sharper as in sharper tongued, than I'd pictured Mariko being in the novel. However, so far, excellent performance, and we'll discuss a little bit of the tensions in her role, particularly in the second episode. And of course, the third key member of the cast, and it's a big cast, because it's a huge sweeping epic, is the Lord Yoshii Toranaga, one of the five Council of Regents appointed by his deceased friend and feudal lord, the Taiko, upon his death, in order to guard Taiko's son. And the struggle between the five of those vying for supremacy, although none of them, of course, admit they want to be shogun. There are three hearts within everybody, as the story says. Some of them are vying for total power and using the family of the Taiko as puppets. So anyway, what can you say about this actor, Hiroyuki Sanada? He is phenomenal. He doesn't really look like the Toranaga of the novel. He's far more handsome, tall, and good looking, and slimmer. But such a powerful, commanding actor, and his presence is a real seal of approval on this project, particularly as he is a producer, as I said. So anyway, so the background, obviously, as we said, to episode 1, Anjin. Jarvis and his crew fetch up on the shore, and it is in a fiefdom controlled by a vassal of Toranaga. Toranaga himself, we see in other scenes, contending with this power struggle with the fellow regents, who basically feel like they've got him trapped in a corner now, without giving too much away, boxed in by events and trapped by their scheming. The arrival of this ship, though, Western ship full of gold, silver, cannons, and a different group of people from the Westerners they're used to, provides a leverage and provides some opportunities for Toranaga. His vassal Yabu initially tries to conceal the arrival of the ship because he's playing his own game, but Toranaga's got a pretty wide network and he realizes it's there. So that really sees Blackthorn's separation, as he's the leader of the remaining crew members, separation, the Japanese doing various things to either talk to him or indeed imprison him. There's a fairly interesting, disturbing sequence taken from the novel for one of the crew, something that happens to them. But again, all of this is showing the cultural differences and setting up also the struggles between various factions that are happening. It's a new type of European in town, though, so that's going to shake up everything that's happening in Japan. So Toranaga, Mariko's introduced. She's a vassal of Toranaga. As yet, we don't know. Something happened in her past which has caused her, although she's samurai, to be somewhat her family were somewhat disgraced, but she's married to one of Toranaga's vassals. He hasn't really dealt with her much, but he knows who she is, and she's an extremely interesting character. She's Catholic, speaks Portuguese, speaks Latin, therefore is extremely useful as a translator, because the other translators are all Jesuit priests. Can they be trusted? Who knows? So Blackthorn is eventually taken to Osaka in order to be used, or people are interested in who he is and this division between the West. But anyway, sets it up extremely well, because the novel is extremely deep, extremely detailed, but it does, through compression of certain things, I think, take that story well forward. And it looks fascinating. The village looks interesting. Osaka looks interesting. The portrayal of the ship journey to Osaka is also very thrilling and very well portrayed. There's a character called Rodriguez, who's a Portuguese pilot the same as Blackthorn, and he has a very interesting relationship with Blackthorn, because they share a lot in common, even though they're supposedly mortal enemies because of religion. So the ship journey, and Blackthorn shows a side the Japanese didn't know he had during that journey and the events of it. So episode 1, excellent, and it was great. We could go straight on to episode 2, Servants of Two Masters. Now the title is very descriptive, because a lot of this is about people having a struggle between their two different competing loyalties. So Mariko has her Catholic faith, but also her loyalty as a vassal to Toranaga. Do they conflict? Who does she serve? How does she balance that? But the same can go for Toranaga and the Council of Regents, and their loyalties or not to each other, and his loyalty to his former lord, the Taiko, but also Yoshii, Toranaga's vassal, has his own game to play. He is loyal to Toranaga, but he also is working with Toranaga's rival Ishido, the head of the Council of Regents. So there's levels of potential betrayal, maybe that's the plan, who knows. We see more of the events in the past, which set up the position of the regents now. We see Mariko being used as a translator. We see the relationship between Toranaga and the son, the heir of the Taiko, a young kid. And we see them actually just interested in Blackthorn and what he has to say about the world, drawing a big map in the sand in front of the world and talking about the Portuguese and their bases and their military side, and the money that the Portuguese make out of the black ship every year loaded with goods. Big money maker for the Portuguese, but also certain Japanese allies. So there's a lot of cultural interest in the cultural differences. Toranaga is a very, very smart, very inquisitive guy. So great episode. Again, really, really exploring the cultural differences, but how those are leveraged into the plot, and attempted to be used by different factions, different players. Don't want to give too much away, obviously, because I really want you to watch it. But Blackthorn, on his mission to expose the Portuguese and supplant them, is filled with a fervor to expose them and challenge them. It's very interesting indeed. And we see a little bit of the Jesuits privately in their discussions about their motivations. It's not just religious, power and control. So, fantastic stuff. Both episodes, brilliant. What can I say? Thoroughly enjoyed them. I feel so far They're doing a fantastic job. I had concerns that from the trailer that perhaps Mariko, who is don't get me wrong, she's a fantastic character, intelligent, smart, brave, samurai class. However, I thought perhaps they were going to girl boss her physically because of some of the scenes in the trailer. I think my concerns were misplaced. She's enough of a boss without having to be a ronin or a ninja. So that was that allayed my fears on that front. So far, first 2 episodes, excellent. Please watch them. Let me know what you think. I'll be taking a shorter look at each episode as they come out, and then a final season review. But for once, I feel we have a property that so far is living up to expectation and is being treated with the respect it deserves. So bravo so far to the producers and to FX. Thank you for watching this. Please check out the rest of the content on my channel. Maybe give a little like to this and all that good YouTube stuff that they always say. Until next time then, keep on rocking and stay well.